Alrighty, good morning everybody. It is Wednesday, October 13th, 2021, and we're going to get started here with our pre-market analysis on the S&P 500 futures market. Just really quickly want to point out that last night, right around midnight on the Pacific coast here, we came right down again to an eye level that we give our members here. Right down, I think it broke by 4 or 5 ticks, bounced out of there, and then this morning, right at the CPI, we pushed right into a eye level that we give our members here, and it was literally to the tick, came right to the eye level, and then sold off from there. So just really cool stuff in terms of that. And let's go ahead and jump up to our ultra high time frames here and start our pre-market analysis. Our quarterly and our monthly, nothing new to say there. Our weekly, same situation. There is a little bit of an argument, excuse me, that we could, we're pushing higher, making higher lows on this weekly chart, but the RVI is pushing to make lower lows. Again, it is a straight line, not something I love, but we do have that going on the weekly. We get down to our daily, and it looks like the bullish divergence that we identified at before the market opened yesterday is actually holding here. So the candle did close. We got an official bullish divergence there off of the overnight low from yesterday. And so remember, that's what helped us kind of build a more bullish bias going into the open yesterday. Of course, nothing really seemed to transpire. We kind of ended up staying right in that daily range there. But daily has a nice bullish divergence there off of the low from yesterday. And then as far as the new candle that's printed, we can't really say too much about that. And the previous candle has no indications of bearishness. So remember, this also was a nice push up, a pullback, and then a bounce just about at the 61.8 retracement of this whole push up. Let's go ahead and go to our 4 hour here. And here's that retracement scheme you can see from the low we made back on October 1st to the high we made on October 7th. Here's the pullback, the 61.8 sitting here right at 43.21, and you can see it probed it just by a few points there, and now we're holding. And this was yesterday's market, very tight range. Coming into this morning, still stuck within yesterday's range there. But what I'm seeing here on the 4 hour right now is we have a nice bullish divergence off of what it looks to be our overnight low. So you can see we pushed to lower lows as the night went on, right until about, I believe it was around midnight. And you can see on the 4 hour here, once this did officially close at 3 a.m. Pacific, we did show a bullish divergence off that low. On the opposite end, I don't see any clear bearish signals outside of this signal from yesterday where we came up, and we're going to talk about this in our study session this week. The fact that we came up and retested the high that we made earlier that morning right at the open, and we do have that bearish signal on the top end there, but that led to the sell-off that went into the close yesterday and then down to the low we made in the overnight. So that might be all that ends up yielding, but we do have that bullish divergence there off the overnight low. We do have the bullish divergence from the previous daily low, and then we do have that nice daily bullish divergence here on our higher time frames. We go down to our 60-minute, and our 60-minute also did have the bullish divergence off the overnight low and the bullish divergence off the previous daily low. And then you can also see that bearish divergence off the highs from yesterday, and then even arguably right now, a little bit of a bearish divergence. So as you can see, things are kind of mixed, right? So when we have these kind of markets, typically we don't see a trend one way or the other. Doesn't mean that's not going to happen. There could be some type of strong bullish push, some strong bearish push, but right now we have a lot of conflicting signals. And if we kind of zoom out here and you look at what's going on for the last, let's just say, month, a little over a month, we kind of have this down slope, or let me get this tool out, kind of sloping down like this, and then down in this area starting to slope up, making this kind of wedge pattern. And this is the last 2 weeks of price action here. Even zooming all the way out, you can see that this is essentially carried through like that, and then back here it just kind of drops off. But if we came back to the last major low, you can see we've got this kind of constriction going on in the market. Bears are trying to sell this guy off. Bulls are jumping in every time they pull back here, trying to push, but then failing on every try here. So we're making these lower lows, but in a way you can see we're starting to make we're making lower highs, but now we're starting to make these higher lows over the course of October here. So October 1st was all the way back here. This is where we had that beautiful multiple time frame bullish setup. And now you can see that we're making higher lows as we go here. Let's go down to our intermediate time frames. Remember that, just looking from this upper time frame perspective, it is looking pretty mixed this morning. We are sitting smack dab right in the middle of this range right here, smack dab essentially for the last month of price action. We're right in the middle of it, right? We have the extreme high for the last month up around 44.72, the extreme low down at 42.60. We're sitting essentially right in between the two ends. So let's go down to our intermediate time frames. Probably not going to change the picture at all for us this morning, but we'll just see what they're saying here. Agreement on the bearish stuff from previous daily high. Again, that bullish divergence from the previous daily low, which was helping us to give us somewhat of a bullish bias yesterday. And then right now you can see bearish signal off the highs, bullish signal off the overnight lows. So not necessarily helping, and I did skip over the 30-minute, but it's the same picture. Bearish off the overnight highs, bullish off the overnight lows. And yesterday the same thing. Bullish off the lows, bearish off the highs. Again, in this very constricted range. I mean, it is a 40, 50 point range. Plenty of opportunity for trades, but still starting to get pretty tight in here. We don't really have enough arguments for one way or the other, outside of the fact that we did get a huge confluence back on October 1st, which I've already beaten into your heads since Monday. That nice bullish divergence on October 1st. And you can see that they're holding that low, and we keep making these higher lows. So the potential that we could see a continuation in that pattern for a push up to at least test the highs from the last few days. And then ideally for the bulls, they would get through that 44.21 and beyond. So this morning, it's just one of those situations. We have kind of this triangle type formation in here, starting to really get constricted and wound up here, kind of like a coil. And you do hear a lot of seasoned traders talk about how the market can coil up, and then that leads to some type of major push one way or the other. Kind of like you're coiling up and building up all the energy for some type of larger release. So we'll see which way it goes. Like I said, not necessarily the clearest picture as to which direction it's going to break right now. Maybe let's just do this really quickly, since we do have about 15 minutes till the open, so plenty of time to kind of discuss things here. Let's go up to the ultra high time frames and take a look here and see if there's any indications as far as where we could expect maybe a break out of that wedge or triangle that we were just talking about. Quarterly, really, there's just not enough resolution to get in there and see anything. At least where we are right now on this pullback, just not enough information. There's definitely no bearish exhaustion pattern, remember, on that quarterly. The monthly, looking from the lows right now, it would be nice to see some type of situation where this came down and actually made a lower low compared to the previous RVI. And then we could at least have more confidence in saying, hey, look at that. We've got this kind of pattern here, looking like there is some bullish indications on this monthly chart, but we don't have that. So right now, not really helping that picture. And maybe the weekly is the one time frame that is going to give us a little bit of clarity here. So again, we're just trying to extrapolate from what we're seeing here. We don't have nice defined peaks, but what I can say is that we have progressively made lower lows on these weekly candles. And the RVI itself has also pushed and continued to make lower lows. Again, there's no peaks there, but we have been making lower lows on RVI, lower lows on price. But on the bottom end here, we talked about the bullish divergence off the low back when I left for vacation on the 24th, that Friday. We talked about the potential bullish case, and then the next weekly candle closed and continued with the bullish argument. So maybe the weekly is kind of showing that we should break to the upside here. And then keep in mind the daily also did have a bullish divergence from that October 1st low and then from yesterday. So maybe if we look at these higher time frames, we could extrapolate that there is maybe a little bit more of a chance that they're going to, once they get out of this triangle pattern that we have in here right now, maybe they'll break to the upside. So I'll leave you with that, and we'll jump down to our short time frames, get our eye levels on the chart, and start working with our members here this morning. So with that being said, have a great rest of your day, and we will see you tomorrow.